photographer, or really any kind of artist, learning to say no is crucial. We will be faced with an endless stream of demands, distractions, and shiny new opportunities. But saying no to some things will allow us to say yes to the right things. I will admit that this has been a hard lesson for me, one that I've had to relearn again and again. I am a people pleaser. I'm an enthusiast who loves to try new things. And as my wife will attest, I am someone who frankly underestimates how long projects will take. And so learning to say no is something that I imagine I will always be working on. Now, there are a million different videos on YouTube about learning to say no, but I wanted to make a video this week in defense of the yes. If you're new here, my name is John Pattison. I'm a photographer and a writer in Oregon's Willamette Valley, and on this channel, I explore how the creative process can slow us down, make us more attentive to the world around us, and lead to personal and even community transformation. And if that sounds like your kind of thing, consider subscribing. When I look back on 2024, one of the biggest themes of my photographic journey has been the value and really even the joy of learning to say yes to opportunities that took me out of my comfort zone. And so I've actually started calling 2024 the year of saying yes. In today's video, I'm going to share 4 virtues of saying yes. I will pull from examples from my own experience over the past year, a year in which I often found myself behind the camera in environments that were very unusual for me. Towards the end, I will offer some questions that I use when trying to discern whether or not to say yes to a new opportunity. And I think that this will be especially helpful for beginner and intermediate level photographers. I will also explain at the end why 2025 might end up being the year of saying no for me, and why, of course, that's okay too. As I go, I would love to hear from you in the comments. What is a time when you said yes to an opportunity that stretched you? What did you learn? I would love to hear your story. The first virtue of saying yes is that it can give you the opportunity to bless others. This year, I had the chance to do some photography on behalf of a local nonprofit that serves adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. A friend of mine, she's on the board, and she reached out to me and she said, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but she basically said, John, I know that you usually take pictures of trees and waterfalls, but I also know that you have a heart for this community, which is true. Would you consider doing some photography on behalf of our club? And I said yes. I captured some candid shots during an outing that they took to a bowling alley. I went to a couple club meetings and took photographs there. I also did some formal portraits of the club members. And for some of them, it was actually the first time that they had ever had their portrait taken in kind of a formal way. And then the nonprofit printed out these portraits and then gave them to the families at their annual banquet auction. And seeing how much joy this process brought these wonderful folks at this nonprofit, that experience was really unforgettable and very meaningful for me. Looking back on this experience, I'm reminded of something that I read years ago in a book by Lewis Hyde called The Gift. And Hyde says that, and he kind of demonstrated that in many cultures, especially ancient cultures and non-Western cultures, a gift isn't something that you own and hold onto. It's something that moves. The more you share it, the more it grows. And art is like that. As one writer I know put it, he said, art is a gift coming and going. We live in a tension between two economies, the market economy and the gift economy, and a professional artist will feel this tension very acutely. We have received a gift that we want to keep circulating. We want to write books that get read. We want to make photographs that get seen, but we also have to make a living. There are some folks, you will find many of these videos on YouTube as well, who they are adamant that an artist should never work for free or for exposure. I don't agree that we should never work for free, but I'll save my own contribution to that discussion for another video. In the meantime, Peter McKinnon made a video about that topic just a few days ago. If you don't know Peter McKinnon, he and I have a combined 6 million subscribers on YouTube. For now, I will just say that regardless of whether we are compensated for our artistic work, we can treat it as a gift received, now given back. And so the lesson for me this year was photography is a gift I don't have to keep to myself. The second virtue of saying yes is that you may discover whole new areas of photography that you love. This year, I tried a bunch of different new genres of photography that I had never done before, but there were two that I especially loved, somewhat to my surprise. One was street photography and the other sports photography. I had never done street photography until I visited San Antonio for work. I already made a whole video about that experience, and so I won't go into too much detail here, but I'll just say that I am completely hooked on street photography. I'm definitely going to keep exploring. The other surprise was sports photography. We are hosting an exchange student this year from South Korea, and he played soccer for the high school. And I brought my camera to his games, and then I was able to share the photos I took with the coaches, with the school, and with other families. I primarily used my Nikon ZF and the 100 to 400 millimeter lens, which is actually kind of a funny combination as I say it out loud, because I don't know, you just wouldn't think that they go together. Just the difference in size is pretty dramatic. But the Nikon ZF's autofocus is amazing, and so it was perfect for that, the high speed, very dynamic environment. I also occasionally used the 85 millimeter 1.8 lens. And what I enjoyed capturing at the games was just how the guys were hustling. They were battling for every ball. They were almost like gladiators. I mean, yes, it was high school JV soccer, but to them on the field and to my camera, it felt epic. One of my favorite photos of the whole year came from a soccer game, actually. I was on the sideline with the 85 1.8, and the sun had just set below the horizon, and the sky was this beautiful swirl of oranges and purples, and I positioned my camera at ground level and then just kind of tilted up, and I took a bunch of, several bursts as the players moved up and down the field in front of me. And my favorite frame captures the ball in midair. It's coming off a header from one of our team captains. And I like how his leg is bent just so. But what I really like about this photograph is how the viewer can actually bring their own story to it. Because the players are in silhouette, this could be almost any soccer field in the world. Soccer is obviously a global phenomenon, and this field could just as easily be in Nigeria or Argentina or South Korea or England. It's just a bunch of friends playing soccer or football until the sun goes down. Of course, saying yes might also mean that you get an opportunity to discover types of photography you don't like. There was no kind of camera work that I did this year that I seriously disliked, but there were a couple that are really not high on my enthusiasm list going forward, unless I get paid really well to do them again. One of them is real estate videography, and the other is actually real estate photography. I tried it, I didn't love it, and I would have to be persuaded financially to do it again. All right, so on to virtue number 3, which is gaining new mastery and skill. The third virtue of saying yes to others is that it also can be a way of saying yes to yourself. This year, for example, I did my first ever senior portrait sessions. One was for my niece, I did one for my daughter's best friend, and I did one for a young guy at the high school who's kind of a friend of a friend. I had never done senior portraits before. Everybody knew that. So I actually asked my wife to come along with me to help with the posing. And between the process of shooting and then editing the photos later, I learned a ton. I learned a lot about my gear. I learned how to work with golden hour light. I learned how to better anticipate the color casts that are going to come off, say, a red brick building, or the trees that are surrounding you, or the grass, or surrounding the subject. I also learned, I think, how to help a subject feel more at ease. As I look back on this year, I want to celebrate the ways in which I grew in confidence. There were a number of times in which I had to face my fears. I had to stare down that capital R resistance that I talked about a couple videos ago from the book, the War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. He talks about a capital R resistance. I had to move into the unknown, and I put myself in positions that were unfamiliar and maybe even intimidating. And that was good for me. I feel like I'm a better photography and hopefully even a better person because I did that. Not long ago, I heard Sean Cannell of Think Media say that mastery leads to money, or something to that effect. He said that skills are more valuable than money because as you grow your skill, you can start to charge for your work, or you can start to charge more. Cannell also asked this compelling question that I've been thinking about a lot as I was putting together this video. He said, "What will come after your courageous yes?" I'm not saying that I was courageous this year. I'm not putting that on myself, but there were a number of times where I said yes, even though I knew I would be moving into unfamiliar territory. And this leads me to the fourth virtue of saying yes to opportunities, even opportunities you may not get paid for yet. And that is that saying yes sometimes leads to professional opportunities down the line. One of the families that I did senior portraits for insisted on paying me, even though they're good friends and I said no. They insisted on paying me probably more than I deserved and definitely more than I expected. And so that was really nice. Saying yes can help you develop a portfolio. I added images to my portfolio from street photography, soccer photography, potentially from the senior photo sessions as well. And saying yes can help you develop new contacts. I made contacts that could become professional clients down the line. One is a local environmental organization that offered to pay me for some landscape and nature photography. I ended up doing it pro bono as a donation to the organization. Somebody else asked me about the drone videography that I had done around my town. And after a dance photo shoot, which was also another crazy opportunity that came up, but after a dance photo shoot that I did, I got a message from a local dance studio asking if I would kind of be their studio photographer. That's not an opportunity that I'm going to take right now, but it's good to know that that kind of thing exists and that opportunity might be there in the future. Which brings me to another important point, which is that there is a time to say yes and a time to say no. 2024 was the time of saying yes, and I'm glad I did. But I think 2025 is going to be the year of saying no. If 2024 was a year of going broad, next year will be a year of going deep. I have some very specific photography goals for next year. So I may share more about them in January. I'm also going to be working on a new book project, and that's going to take up a lot of the disposable time that I would have had. And I've decided I want to prioritize making videos. My goal is to publish at least 2 videos a month on the first and third Saturdays. And if I can add additional videos on other Saturdays, I will. But saying yes to doing YouTube will mean saying no to other opportunities, including some potentially some good ones. When a new opportunity comes my way, I run it through a gauntlet of 7 questions. And if that opportunity makes it through to the other side, I will probably say yes. If it doesn't, I will say no. Or at a minimum, I might say, let's talk about it later, or now is not a good time. The first question is, do I have the time and the energy to give this project my best? Every yes is a no to something else. And I want to have margin in my life. I also need to be present to the most important things in my life. And so I will ask, will this opportunity steal time from my family, from my health, from work obligations, or from my creative practice? And if I don't currently have the time and energy for this thing, what am I doing right now that I'm going to be willing to give up for a season? One tip is to use the 10-10-10 rule from Susie Welch. I actually just learned about this not long ago. She says that we should ask ourselves 3 questions. How will I feel about this decision 10 minutes from now? How will I feel about it 10 months from now? And how will I feel about it 10 years from now? If the long-term benefit outweighs the short-term inconvenience, consider saying yes. The second question of my gauntlet is, does this opportunity move me closer to being the kind of photographer that I want to become? If your goal is to specialize in landscape photography, saying yes to a wedding gig might not be the best use of your time. But if your goal is to become a more versatile photographer, or if you're still exploring your niche, saying yes to a variety of opportunities might be exactly what you need. One tip here is to write down 1 to 3 words that describe your vision as a photographer. For example, attentive, or adventurous, or narrative driven. evaluate opportunities against those words, or whatever your words are. One of my words is wonder. I see better in December 2024 than I did in January 2024 that I want to be a photographer of wonder. And I might make a video about that someday too. All right, third question. Will this opportunity help me grow my skills in a new or needed way? If you've never done portrait photography and you get asked to do senior photos, saying yes could stretch you. That was certainly my experience this year. But on the flip side, if you're being asked to shoot another event where you'll be doing the same shots that you've always done and you're not getting fairly compensated for it, it's probably going to need to score high on some of these other questions in order for you to want to say yes to it. A tip is to prioritize stretch opportunities that challenge your creativity and your technical skill or your ability to work under new conditions. The fourth question, does this project align with the type of work that I want in my portfolio? When you're starting out, it's tempting to say yes to every offer, but if the photos that you will create won't enhance your portfolio, it might be worth reconsidering the opportunity. Early on, variety is okay because it's going to help us discover our niche, but as we grow, we will want our portfolio to reflect the work that we want to be hired for. A tip, before accepting a gig, imagine adding the photos to your website or social media feed. Would you be proud to show them off? Fifth question, does this opportunity pay me fairly or connect me with valuable people? Valuable people is the wrong way of putting it because all people are value, but valuable in the sense of a career or someone who can help you get to where you're going professionally. If you're just starting out, in my opinion, taking some unpaid gigs to build a portfolio can make some sense. But once you are established, unpaid gigs really should come with some other kind of clear value. Sometimes saying yes to a project with a lower pay rate may be worth it if it introduces you to people who could offer better paying gigs in the future. A tip, if the project doesn't pay in money, potentially consider other forms of payment like new connections, portfolio images, testimonials for your website or for your collateral, or personal satisfaction. And that leads me to question number 6. Does this opportunity bring me joy or align with my personal values? Sometimes a thing is worth doing just because it's fun or meaningful. Photographing the work of an amazing nonprofit may not make sense from a career perspective, but if it's deeply fulfilling and you have the time, I think it's a valid reason to say yes, or at least consider saying yes. Again, if some of these other things are true. If you are dreading the work or the subject matter, that's often a clue to say no. The tip for this one is to pay attention to your emotional reaction. Do you feel excited or curious or inspired? If so, maybe the answer should be yes. If you feel dread or if you feel trapped, it's likely that you should say no. And that's a good segue to the final question. The video, I realize, is now getting very long, but the final question is, does my gut say yes or no? Sometimes our intuition is smarter than our logic. If something feels off, there's probably a good reason. And if you're unsure, give yourself permission to wait before responding to this opportunity. Tell the person that you will get back to them in 24 hours or in a couple of days or next week. If you're struggling with indecision, flip a coin. I know that when I've done this, there have been a number of times that when the coin is in the air, I will realize the outcome that I'm hoping for. All right, so I know that was a lot. I hope that was helpful. If so, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And again, I'd love to know, did your 2024 have a theme? Was it a year of saying yes or a year of saying no? And what do you expect from 2025? Let the whole community know in the comments. I read all of the comments and respond to as many as I can for at least the first month after a video has gone live. It occurs to me that the last 4 videos have taken place mostly in this office. The days are really short right now in Oregon. Actually, today is the shortest day of the year. It's also been raining a ton, but I think the next video needs to be in the field. I need to get out of the office. And as I think this through, I think I have some ideas of what I can do. All right, with that, thank you so much for watching. Whether next year is a year of saying yes or a year of saying no, whatever it might be, do it with courage. Happy shooting and many blessings, and I will see you next time.
That bug is supposed to be in there before.